coming at it from the specific point of being an audience or having an audience. And so when you think about an audience, we're really talking about user personas. So in Drupal, you know, in the world of Drupal, as it might stand, there are quite a few different types of users, and I already mentioned some of them. So who these people are is really important. Also, what makes them tick is important. So the types of things that actually you know, are important to them, and how Drupal actually makes their lives easier is very important to them. So how they're actually using Drupal varies from person to person, depending on whether or not they're maybe an end user or a content editor or a marketer. And then most importantly, again, getting back to sort of what makes them tick is what frustrates them. So if they're currently using another system and they're looking to maybe get onto Drupal, obviously the point would be to make their lives easier and introduce you know, tools and things like that within Drupal or in using Drupal that would make their lives easier. So, you know, at that point when you sort of identified your audience, and it gets to the point now where it's really time to show Drupal and talk about Drupal. And so that's where, you know, people start to really sort of, at this presentation I show this because people get a little bit frustrated at this point. It's like, I thought this was a Drupal demo. And that's true, it is. So one way that people show Drupal sometimes is they go to Drupal.org. And they try to show people Drupal this way. And this website is a pretty useful website, especially if you're a developer, because there's lots of information about Drupal's APIs and how you can use Drupal. There are some case studies about sites that are made with Drupal, but overall it cannot necessarily be the best demo for Drupal, even though it is a site that's built in Drupal. Another thing that people often do is sort of go through this hit list of, you know, Drupal greatest hits. So they might show the White House website, and that's, you know, a very interesting and cool use case for Drupal. But for a lot of end users, they don't really know or understand that they're on Drupal. And when you go about this way of showing websites that are built on Drupal, it can be helpful, but it can also be confusing because you're not always able to log into these websites and show what the content editors are doing inside of Drupal. And, you know, if you are, say, a Drupal development shop and you show your client sites, you can kind of get away with that. But a lot of times what's hard about that is that you've customized things and made a lot of decisions based around client needs. So sometimes you'll spend more time explaining the architecture of a client site than you will actually showing what Drupal can do to someone. So this can be a really ineffective way to show Drupal as well. The third way to show Drupal that I've seen that people do, and this is probably the worst thing that you could do, is just try to build out a quick Drupal demo sort of overnight. So just this example, I'm not sure how long it took this person to build this site, so, and if the person that built this site is watching, I'm sorry, but I'm using your screenshot here as sort of a don't do this for Drupal, because this is basically, it looks to me like someone said, hey, let's throw together a Drupal example site because we need to demo Drupal to someone, and let's show them all the different things, you know, RSS aggregation and all these different dashboards and settings and things that we can add to Drupal. And so what they've done is basically crammed, you know, more than they could really fit into the screen, and it's very confusing. And when you do this, you're not really thinking about from the perspective of a storyteller in showing Drupal. You're more just trying to show features. So you might have sort of like a RFP in front of you or whatever, and you said, okay, they wanted to see X, Y, and Z features, and we threw them all on here, and so this should definitely show them that Drupal is sufficient. But in this case, you're probably not that well off, because obviously this is, if you're familiar with Drupal, you'll know that this is the stock Drupal theme that they're showing, so they're not really showing the strength of Drupal's theme layer and how you can do different things with Drupal on the front end. And they're also not really giving a very good demo of just the content organization of Drupal. So valiant effort here, but not necessarily the best possible Drupal demo that you could show.
Yeah, Drupal gets way cooler than this.
Yeah, and so sort of what you end up with at that point, you know, in sort of demoing, I guess what I would say the wrong way is people that come away with sort of a very, maybe more questions than they started with, and at that point maybe frustration and anger. So, you know, something to avoid. So what we do at Acquia is we sort of have put together a formula for success. And I talked about this a little bit earlier, but what's really important is to be a storyteller. So when we show Drupal, we really try and tell a story, and we'll see that soon when I actually show our demo. And what we did to do that is we actually wrote a script based around, you know, so we had that list of features that we felt like we wanted to show, but we tried to come up with a way that this was actually something that could flow really nicely, and we could run through it and practice and perfect it. And in doing so, we were able to standardize on this one script and this demo so that new people that come into our organization can get onboarded and they can give the demo, or we can give this demo to partners or even potential clients, and these people can show it to other people within their organization, and everyone can use this, and they can essentially be, standardized on a single system so that everyone is seeing these same features and really seeing the strengths of Drupal without having to deal with sort of, building their own demo or do all those things that were very hard to do. So the cool thing about all of this is that, so there's an often used adage in Drupal. There's a module for that. So you might have heard that phrase before if you're familiar with Drupal, where, if you have a use case, there's some type of extension tools that you can download and you can install them on your Drupal site and they'll solve some type of problem for you. But another thing you can do with Drupal is actually download an entire packaged version of Drupal called a distribution or a distro. And that's what we've built in this demo. It's actually a distro for Drupal, and I'll be providing links and things like that later so you can download and play with this yourself. But basically it installs this demo out of the box so that you have a packaged version of Drupal that comes with a bunch of different modules already enabled and configured. And in doing so, basically you're able to stand on the shoulders of giants and work with what's been provided by everyone within the Drupal community. And this is just a compilation of really the greatest hits of Drupal that we've come together to build in the demo framework. So the rules for open source, if that's something that maybe you're not totally familiar with, but it's something that we follow in Drupal, something that we followed in building the demo framework, and basically, something maybe, for some people is kind of a mantra or sort of religion that they follow is to, go look for existing work, go find good work, and build on top of that, rather than, having sort of what is commonly referred to as not invented here syndrome or NIH. People, you'll find that in organizations where people don't trust things that they didn't build themselves, and they waste a lot of time, and they end up, reinventing the wheel, as it were, a lot of times, where they would be better off using something that's open source and building on top of it and making it better. And that is really where paying it forward comes through with Drupal, because all Drupal projects, since they're open source, are ones that anyone can work with the contributors and maintainers of these modules and Drupal core itself and provide patches. And it's a way that thousands of people all over the world actually work on this product together and make it better. And that's a way that you can employ thousands of people to work on your product and help you improve your product and your things that you use in Drupal actually have a much faster and better development workflow because everyone is paying it forward. So it's really useful.
That's one of my favorite things about Drupal, is that when you use Drupal as a CMS, you're not just using one developer, you're using a world of brilliant developers.
Yeah, definitely. And I've learned a lot from a lot of these brilliant developers in my time, and I definitely know that I'm a better developer today than I would have been if I had tried to do everything on my own and wasn't able to use open source software and learn from other people. So that, yeah, that's really the key here with Drupal, is the fact that it is open source, and that that's not something to be afraid of. It's actually something to embrace, and it's something that you see in other systems too, like WordPress or Joomla or other CMS, where they're able to rapidly develop and work on these things without having to spend a lot of man hours internally within one company, because all these companies come together. So yeah, let's actually look at this demo then. So for the people that have been sort of that were Alf or that confused girl earlier, and they wanted to know who's so what's Drupal, or how do I use it, or who in my organization needs to use it. This is time to sort of to perk up, because it's time for the actual demo.
I'm excited.
All right, whoops, I did a slide too quick. It's not time for questions. Okay, so this is the Travel Nexus. It's a website that gets installed with the demo framework when you install it, and it is basically a use case for Drupal. So what we're trying to provide here is a case study where we can show how this organization, in this case Travel Nexus, is they are a company that sells trips. But their basic rub here is that they're a reseller of trips. So they have featured packages that they're trying to sell you, but they want to get people to come into the site and use the site a lot. So they provide constant new content, like articles. So at the top here, we see this Bike the USA. That's an article. We also see a package here, and there's also a call to action for a contest. some more articles and videos and even some stuff that came off of Twitter, so we can see how Drupal can integrate with third-party systems to bring in content. And all of this is just basically a homepage, landing page that shows, the basics of what this organization does with Drupal. And so the first person that I'm going to demo as in this case, because we want to talk about users, is an end user. So I'm going to go ahead and log in as someone named Jennifer.
Are you going to speak like Jennifer too?
I am not going to do that, but
Right.
maybe next time around you can speak on behalf of Jennifer.
Perfect.
All right. So you'll notice I just logged in as Jennifer, and what we did was we saw the homepage change. So this is a really important feature of Drupal that we can talk about, where basically Drupal is very extensible so that you can actually do a lot of cool personalization with Drupal. So in this case, what Jennifer did was when she first signed up for this site, we asked her a couple of questions. Maybe where would you like to travel to? Do you prefer a tropical vacation, or do you want to go to Europe? Things like that. And through answering these questions, we're able to actually tailor fit content for her and show her an alternate version of the homepage that's really personalized for her experience. So she sees an island life in Puerto Rico content for the main splash, and she also sees a featured package that's different than the one that we saw on the anonymous user homepage. So the logged in user, in this case Jennifer, sees a tropical paradise package. She also sees a contest here to win a tropical Caribbean vacation. And what I'm going to do here is, as Jennifer, I'm actually going to go ahead and click on this content and check out this contest.
I have to say, giving end users relevant content is one of the fundamentals in digital marketing. So it's awesome we can do this.
Definitely. And so Drupal can enable you to do that very easily. In this case, what we're doing is using a system called taxonomy. So you probably have heard of that before, where you basically have terms, and these terms are assigned both to content and, in this case, the user. And so in doing so, we're able to actually tailor fit content based on just a simple taxonomy match. And there's other things that you can do in Drupal too that are much more advanced than that, but just a simple example. So what I'm looking at here is winning a tropical Caribbean vacation. This is a contest, and I see that there is a link here to enter this contest, so I'll go ahead and click on that as Jennifer. And in doing that now, I see that I've been entered into the contest to win a tropical Caribbean vacation. A little note here at the top too, in the top corner, it says transmitted lead scoring to Marketo. That's just a little bit of demo info that I throw in there for us so that we can see that. Not necessarily something that Jennifer would actually see in real life, but something to note, because what I've done here is I've fired off a rule. Oops, let's do that later. Try back in an hour. All right. So we'll transmit lead scoring to Marketo. And what that means is that a rule fired in Drupal. So there's this really cool system in Drupal called rules, where basically the idea is that for every action, there's a reaction. And so in this case, because I entered this contest, I've actually been added to a segment within Drupal. So in this case, the segment is a group, and this is the Caribbean Vacation Contest group. Because I've been added to that group, I can fire off a rule in Drupal and send something to a third-party system, such as Marketo, so this is a marketing automation suite that also deals in user segmentation. So now I have Jennifer's email and her different information about her, and I'm actually able to make her a lead in Marketo and assign her to that segment. So now I'm really able to see from different perspectives and different systems some of the different things that we can do with Drupal through integration. So super useful for marketers because they now have a better user segmentation for Jennifer. So we now know specifically she is definitely, she didn't just answer a question about tropical vacations, but she entered a contest, which is definitely a better call to action and sort of a better lead than just something a little bit more passive. So in doing so, we also saw that the page changed. So this is where we talk about context in Drupal. So because I have the context now that she has actually joined this group, or in this case, we know that she's entered a contest to win a vacation, I can show her this a couple of different things. So we'll see that now that there's actually a call to action, a link to this booking your trip. And so it's a link to an actual trip, which is really what we want her to end up doing in the end, because we're trying to sell her a trip. We can also see that some other reviews for this trip have showed up. So we have some other content from users that showed up. So basically the idea that we can show people different content based on different contexts around them. So I'm going to go ahead and follow this link and go to Tropical Paradise at reasonable rates. So again, I'm seeing a little bit more content here. In this case, this is a a piece of e-commerce. So what's really cool about Drupal 2 is the fact that because it's modular, we can add e-commerce into Drupal. So while on some systems where you might have, on some websites, you might go to the website and they say, okay, do you want to go to the store or do you want to look at content? And that sort of experience is diverged. And that can become really difficult for marketers, especially people doing e-commerce, because once people go into sort of the blog end of the website, which is a totally different system, it's hard to get people back in to sell them products. The products end up looking more like ads in that case, and they have to go and have two totally different experiences. But with Drupal, we can do all of this e-commerce right within the system, which is really nice. So in the same system that I manage my content, I'm also managing products and managing content that displays products. So in this case, I'm looking at this product, Tropical Paradise at Reasonable Rates, and I see that there's some product reviews that were posted by some different people on this site, and I can also see sort of what the taxonomy is that's related to this product, and I can go ahead and add it to my cart as well. So I went ahead and added it to my cart.
I'm coming with you.
All right, yeah. Sounds like a good idea. So we've seen that we're actually adding this tropical package to the shopping cart, and we can see how in Drupal we're managing the cart, and I can go ahead and view my cart if I want to. And we could go through the whole checkout flow and everything if we wanted to. Not exactly an interesting demo. So we'll just say that she went ahead and bought this vacation. And then let's say that also maybe a month later she returned to the website. So we see some things that are a little bit different because she's already been added to the contest. She already entered the contest. It's no longer relevant to really display that content for her, so we see a different article being shown in this area where we clicked earlier. But the featured package is still there. And what I'm going to go ahead and do is just revisit the package. And as Jennifer, I'm going to write a review. So I went to the bottom of the page here, and I'm going to write my own review. And so now we can see a little bit of content editing in Drupal. In this case, I am just an end user, so I don't have a lot of access to different cool things, but I do have access to a tiny WYSIWYG that gives me a few options. If I was an admin user or someone else, I might have a lot more options than this WYSIWYG, but as Jennifer, I just have a few. And I'm just going to go ahead and say I had a great time. It was awesome. All right, so I wrote a product review, and I'm going to go ahead and save that. And in doing so now, here's Jennifer, and she wrote her review. Had a great time. It was awesome. So a really quick end-user demo of some of the things that an end user can do on a Drupal website. And so that's interesting and it's pretty cool. But for a lot of people that are watching right now, they've used websites before. They understand websites do stuff. It's more important really for them, and really the strength of Drupal in this demo is going to be what the content editors that actually write this content do. So I'm going to go ahead and switch users again, and in this case, I'm going to switch over to a person named Erica. All right. So I've switched users now. I just actually just had a tab open ready for her to go. Some context switch here. But I'm on the same Drupal website, the Nexus site. I'm just logged in as Erica, and we're looking at her profile right now. And so in this case, Erica's persona, when we talk about audience here, so Erica is an editor of the site, so she's a curator of content. And we have these same questions that I mentioned earlier. So who is she? She's someone that creates new content. She wants to, review posted content on the site, and in this specific case, she wants to promote content to be reviewed for production. So what that means basically is that she doesn't actually have access to publish things, but she does have access to work on content and edit them. But she needs a workflow solution, so that's really what makes her tick. So this person, she wants permissions and roles on Drupal, so that there's a workflow in place to make it easy for her to, access content, and maybe someone else can go ahead and approve it on her behalf and publish it. So she needs to edit content and update it. She needs it syndicated, and most importantly, her frustrations really revolve around inefficient experiences with workflows. So, mistakes or misprints. So if she makes a mistake and it gets into the production site, there's no editor to basically say, they see that after the fact, and that's not a very good workflow. So what she does is actually goes on the website, works on content, and then marks it for review. And I'm going to go ahead and go through her workflow here. So we'll go to the home page. And already we see some different contexts that we had from before. So at the top of the page now, we can see that there is a toolbar. And so she has access to different things like a workbench area. She has access to a content listing. She can do some light configuration. And she has some basic permissions on the site. She doesn't have permissions to do everything, but she has permissions to do quite a few things. We also see that she's seeing some different content based on her own personalization. So what Erica's thinking right now is looking at this snowboarding article. And she's thinking about the snowboarding article and thinking to herself, you know what, maybe not everybody knows where Big Sky is. Some people might know it's in Montana, but we might have people, international visitors to the site or whoever, and they might not know. So one thing that I can do as her is I can go ahead and find a tool up here at the top of the screen. And in this case, it's a pencil that I click on. And when I click on the pencil, it actually opens up an inline editing mode. So what I'm going to do now is start to work on content within the context of actually viewing the page through inline editing. So I can click on the body, and I can see a WYSIWYG shows up, so I could go ahead and edit this content, or I could go to the title. And in this case, what I'm going to do is just extend the title and say, Big Air Big Sky, Montana is a better title. And I'm going to go ahead and click Save. So Erica's clicked Save, and what she's actually done in this case, if we look at the Moderate tab, and we open it up, we can see that she's actually created a new revision on the site. So we're in the admin view now, and you see the theme changes, and we're looking at the Moderate tab. So she's basically made a change, and if we compare revisions that she's made, we can actually see, okay, she's updated the title through in-place editing. Cool. So we now have a couple different tabs. We have the view published. So for our view, that's still what's published on the website right now. That's what's live, and the title hasn't been changed. But I can view a draft, and I can actually see that, okay, cool, that's the change that I made. So super useful to have drafts in place, so I can work on a draft and know that I'm working on the content before it actually gets published and my changes go live. And in this case, since I'm Erica and my roles and permissions in Drupal are set up as such that I'm a curator, what I can do is I can mark something using my Moderate tab as needs review, but I can't actually publish it. So just an important distinction for this user. And what I'm going to do is actually make a note here to the reviewer. So this is the editor of the site. His name's Paul. So I'm going to say, hey, Paul, most people might not know Big Sky is in Montana. Cool. So I'm going to go ahead and click Save here, and that'll be changing the state to needs review. So this is the current revision, and the current state is needs review. And we can see what's happened here is that here's my note from Erica to Paul. So now I'm going to switch to Paul because I actually need to review this content. So here we are as Paul.
While you switch to Paul, I just want to say that's really great. The editing capability and the workflow capability and the communication to other people capability, that's really useful if you're in editing, blogging, marketing.
Definitely. So you have these different stakeholders, and sometimes you might have multiple states that need to go through. So Paul might, be the person that puts it into production for some people, but on some websites you might need to extend this system and actually add multiple states. So in this case, I'm just going to go ahead as Paul and open up my Workbench area. And so when I look at the Workbench, it's kind of a cool overview of some of the recent content that's been posted on the site. I can see my own recent edits. So I can see that looks like Paul's been writing some product reviews. It's going to flesh out some content on the site. And I'm going to click on a tab called Needs Review. And in this Needs Review tab, I can see that there is currently one piece of content that needs review. And I can go ahead and quickly change moderation states if I want to. And I can see who did the revision. So it was Erica, and she last updated 1 minute and 12 seconds ago. And I can see the type of content that it was. And in this case, I want to actually review the content, so I clicked on it. All right, and here's the original piece of content, and I have the same tab that Erica did to view the draft, and I can see her draft, and I also have the Moderate tab, so I can visit that as Paul and see what she said to me, say, okay, hey Paul, most people might know that Big Sky's in Montana, say, yeah, that's a good point. And you can see that there's some different states that Paul has access to. So while Erica had access to the Needs Review tab, workflow state, Paul actually has access to 2 others. So he can set this as a draft if he wants to and kick it back to Erica, or he can publish it. And this is really where the workflow states in Drupal get really powerful, because if you wanted to, you could configure these and you could actually add other workflow states. So say if you have a legal department, something needs past legal, you could have a workflow state called past legal. So Paul could promote this to the legal department or whatever. And another cool thing about this, because we have rules in Drupal that I talked about earlier, where an action causes a reaction, this state change is an action. And so I could kick out an email to Paul or someone else within the organization to notify them that something needs review. And these workflow states can be extended to do a lot of really cool things. So in this case, as Paul, I'm going to say that's a really good point, and I'm going to publish this just by clicking Save. So now we see we've gone green. We're no longer in the red draft state. We don't have a View Draft button. We have a New Draft button if Paul wanted to make a new draft. And when we click on View Published, we can see that the title has indeed been changed. So there's Erica's workflow state changed to switch to production for the live website. So some other cool stuff that Paul can do as an editor. He can actually preview site content. So for example, let's say that we are working on a lot of different content for the site and we have all these different drafts and we really want to know what they'll look like around the site. So there's a really cool system built in Drupal called the Site Preview System that you can use. And for Paul here, what he's going to do is go ahead and open up this content about Munich, and he wants to see maybe what the homepage would look like if he changed this image. So when we saw View Draft earlier, we knew that we could see the title change. We knew that we could see some other changes on this basic page, which is nice for viewing the draft, but what if I need to see what the draft will look like somewhere else on the website? That's something you can do with the Site Preview System in Drupal. So the Site Preview System works with this system called Collections. So I'm going to go ahead and move my toolbar over here to the side, and I'm going to open up Collections and look at some of the different collections I have on the site. So collections, if you think about collections, it's really just a place to store drafts of content. So think about the scenario maybe of like the Super Bowl. And so say you're the NFL and you've got two different versions of content based on the outcome of what's going to happen in the Super Bowl. You might have the Chicago Bears and the New England Patriots playing each other in the Super Bowl. It's 1985. Maybe the Bears are going to win. Maybe the Patriots are going to win. We've got all sorts of articles about William the Refrigerator Perry and all the 85 Bears and them celebrating. And then we also have articles about the Patriots. And these are essentially ready to go. We're only going to publish one version of one batch of the other. So in that case, we'd have two collections, one called Bears and one called Patriots. In this case, I have a little collection I made called Munich Calling. And this is kind of a take on London Calling, but basically, the idea that Munich should be maybe the place that we're sending people to. So I created a collection called Munich Calling, and I'm going to use that to tag content and use it as part of a collection. So go ahead and go back to the site where I was at before, back to the Munich node, and I'm looking at this content, and I'm able to then go into this tab called New Draft. And what I'm going to do is make some changes. So let's just say that I want to change this image. So that image is really important on the home page. It was the splash page for users that have similar preferences to Paul. And what we want to do is try and actually see what it would look like if someone changed this. So I'll go ahead and remove that image, and I'm going to click Browse and open up a little box here to grab another image. So in this case, not too important to really grab anything that's too contextual since we're just doing a preview, but I'll just grab this photo of Portland, see what it would look like. Basically, I want to see what the homepage would look like with a different image. But I don't want to actually publish it because this is a picture of Portland. So I'll scroll down, and I see some of the different tagging that we have in Drupal that has been added. So we saw that the Munich content has things like beer in Europe and foodie in Germany assigned to it. So that's really how that personalization was working earlier, if you're wondering about it. And we also see this Site Preview collection. So the Site Preview collection provides a drop-down, and there's my Munich Calling collection. So I can go ahead and tag that, and I'll save it. So what I'm doing now is making a new draft. So I'm viewing my draft here, and I can see that picture of Portland and this bridge. Not actually a picture of Munich, but again, I just want to see what the homepage would look like with a different photo. Not too important. Probably should have another picture of Munich, but I don't have one on hand. So going to the homepage, we'll see that the old photo is still there, no problem. But I have this tab at the top. So at the top we had that pencil earlier when we could do inline editing. And in this case, on this page, it's a home page, landing page, somewhere on the site. I have an interactive preview available. And I can go ahead and open it up. And I can see that there is a collection available called Munich Calling. Just enable that preview. And now what I'm doing is previewing the site as with the Munich Calling collection. So a very cool feature in Drupal where I can actually surf around the site and see this different published content, or sorry, unpublished content, but what it would look like if it was published. So I get a little bit of an indication that this is, don't worry about it. This is, this is live. We're in a site preview, and I can do things like look at the different travel guides page and see what it would look like around the different parts of the site. So effectively, here's what the site would look like if this content was changed, but not really. And so a super useful tool, site preview system, where you can actually work on content on the production site without publishing it and even see what the site would look like in a future state. So I'll go ahead and disable that site preview, and you'll see that this will kick back to the original photo. So here's what was live, and then with the preview enabled, we had our site preview. So a pretty cool tool for Paul.
That is so easy.
Yeah. Some other cool tools that Paul can use. So we have some other tabs here. He can actually switch the language of the site, so he could actually see what this would look like in German if you wanted to. And he can actually also look at this on different devices. So right within Drupal, we can actually look at some different devices and see what the responsive design of this Drupal website would look like. So I'm going to go ahead and look at it on an iPhone. And we'll see this little preview comes up. Here's what it looks like on an iPhone.
That is so cool.
What's really cool is I can actually use my interactive preview at the same time. So if I wanted to, I could re-enable the preview, and what we'll see happen, the page is going to reload, and let's reopen, say, let's look at it on Nexus 4. And the site preview is still going to be active. So super useful tool. I can switch the resolutions, and basically I can work on the website without having to have another tablet open next to me or 6 different devices on my desk. So really cool developer tool, but also cool for content editors because they can see, on the site, if this title, what it looks like on an iPad or what it looks like on an iPhone is very different maybe necessarily than what it looks like on a different screen. So here we see that the title wraps. So maybe we want to consider that for, the sake of iPad users, we actually want to maybe modify the design of this site or even change this title so that it doesn't wrap this way. And so those are really useful things that you can do just with this site preview and the responsive preview both enabled.
That's so great. Change that title, Paul. Change that title.
Yep. So one more user that we'll talk about, and this is a user I know is very near and dear to Maggie's heart, the digital marketer. So
that's me.
Yeah. The digital marketer is someone who, on this case, is called Emily Phillips. And when we talk about her persona, she's someone that occasionally updates the site with fresh marketing content. So she's not really the one writing the blog articles or working on the products, but she's making landing pages. So she's interested in creating these landing pages or little microsites within the site. And that can be a real problem for some organizations. So, if you've ever had this problem, before, and I imagine you might have, where, you went to a designer and you had them design a landing page for you, and then you had to go to IT or someone in development and actually develop the landing page and build it out. And this could be, a 2-3 week process. So your marketing is not able to be very dynamic because you're planning out things super far in advance and you can't respond to it. Current events or other things because you can't get these landing pages out quickly. So Emily really needs to be able to build these landing pages herself, and we're going to see real quick here in Drupal how she can do that. But we talk about what makes her tick. Easy content editing experiences to create content quickly and easily, create these pages, and the flexibility to do a lot of different things with these pages, but within the design of the site is super important. So, she's not interested in writing code. She, doesn't really want to deal with a cumbersome backend experience. She doesn't want to have to write HTML or deal with the whole tedious process of having someone else do all that work for her. So, what she can do, log into the site and open up this shortcuts menu, and she sees that she has an add landing page link. So
and for those of you who don't know, landing pages are really important for campaigns, especially pay-per-click campaigns. Oftentimes companies need to create landing pages just for Google pay-per-click campaigns. So keep that in mind as you watch Brant demo this.
Yeah, so think about the idea of a single tweet, and you really just want a landing page for that specific tweet or whatever. To do a 2-week build-out of a landing page with a full development team would be, not an efficient way to spend your money. But to have a digital marketer log into Drupal and be able to actually create these landing pages on their own, super helpful. So what I've done is I've clicked on Add Landing Page, and I'm in a Create Landing Page here. And basically what I'm doing is I'm going to go ahead and add a title. So let's just go ahead and make one about London. So visit London. Let's say we've got some coupons, and we're going to put these specifically just on the London page. And the only place you're going to be able to find these coupon codes is through this page, and they're only live for a short period of time. I might have another campaign, so like Marketo or Salesforce or whatever, so if I have some identifiers I need to tag here, I can go ahead and do that. Drupal can take care of the heavy lifting on the back end, so I might add like London as a tag or something like that. I can go ahead and set up a URL path. So this is where, we have, say the website is nexus.com. Let's say nexus.com/London 2014 is where we actually want to send people. So that's where you're setting up the actual path that people go to. I have another tab here for meta tags. I can go ahead and use tokens from Drupal, or I can add my own meta tags. So really cool stuff I can do. And just a note, we're publishing a draft right now, so we're not going to publish this onto the live site until we've actually built out our page and it's ready to go. So
And
save.
meta tags are great for SEO, right?
Meta tags are extremely important for search engine optimization. That's true. They're also, the meta tag module in Drupal supports Facebook tags as well, so any of that open graph information that you need to add can all be done through that same exact tab.
Cool.
So I'll go ahead and hide this shortcut, and just for the sake of clearing out this little status text, I'll refresh the page. So now what I have here is a blank slate. I'm Emily, and I'm working on a landing page. Already got this page ready to go. It's not published. We're just viewing the draft. And I see at the bottom here some new tools that popped up. Very cool tools to use in Drupal for creating landing pages that are available for Emily as a digital marketer. So, for example, she can click Customize this page. She clicks that, and all of a sudden these little columns pop up. And this is where she can actually start to add content herself. So she's working on the front end of the website, just adding content. So the first thing I want to do is add a widget. So I'll click Add New Pane. These little panes are available, so I have some different ones I can choose from, some presets, some more advanced ones for advanced users. In this case, I just want to add a map, so I see this little Add Map, and I want to create it. And I have this cool little widget where I can just type in something like London. It'll immediately pop up a map of London. I can click Save, and now it's right there on the page. And I can move it around if I want to, decide where I want it to fit on the page, go ahead and continue to work.
That's awesome. You didn't even have to upload anything.
That's true, but if I wanted to, I could.
Oh,
For example,
cool.
I'm going to go ahead and add a piece of media. So in this case, what I want to do is add a photo that I have. So I've got some London photos ready to go. So I'll click Browse here. So what I did was I clicked Add New Media, and now I'm going to just click Browse. And now I have my own library of files. So here's all the different pictures I have on the site. I can sort them by types. So I could pick an existing photo, or if I wanted to, I could grab something off the web. So I could search for something. So I could just search for London. And we'll see this. Look for resources. I can search YouTube, stuff like that. What I'm going to do is actually just choose a file from a desktop. So opening up this tab, and I'm going to pick a photo that I have ready to go. In this case, one from the Tube in London. And I'll click Upload.
You know they pronounce it the tube.
The Tube. And I'll click Submit. Oops. What did I do? Try one more time. There we go. Great. So we have this Mind the Gap photo. You can go ahead and add the title and alt tag attributes. Some meta tags for the actual photo can be added, whatever. Click Save. And I've got this live preview of what the photo will look like. And I'll click Save one more time. And now we'll see it get dropped right into the page. I can go ahead and move stuff around again. So if I want it right here, right there, that's great. But another thing you might notice is like, okay, that's just one layout. But what you can do is provide for your marketers an entire plethora of layouts. So I clicked on Change this layout at the bottom. Now I see a bunch of different layouts that are available through the Panoply package. You can add your own layouts or make custom ones. Looks like we have a couple of responsive ones available, and these other ones for demonstration purposes. So all these Panoply layouts are actually responsive out of the box, which is pretty cool. And I'm going to just go ahead and choose a different one so you can see how changing layouts is a quick and easy task. So I'll switch to this one, and I'll say, let's go ahead and move our content into these spots and click Save. And there we go. So
That is
continue
so
to
awesome.
customize. If I want, I could go ahead and add text. So I probably want to add some text at some point, maybe for, let's say, like if you have widgets that are provided by, say, like Facebook or whatever, and you want to add HTML widgets, you can go ahead and add those through the HTML widget. You can also add links, so lists of links, or you can just add text and use the WYSIWYG editor to do whatever you want. So in this case, I might say, like, add some text. So in this case, I'm just going to generate some text with the little browser widget I have here, paragraph of lorem ipsum. And I can go ahead and start to do some cool stuff with the WYSIWYG, set up different things like that. So all cool stuff that I can do with the WYSIWYG. and I have it all locked inside this preview so I can see it and save it, and there it is. So really quickly and easily, I'm able to, as Emily, just build out this page and get it going. And then,
That's so great.
it's ready to
You don't have
go.
to be a designer. You don't have to be a developer. I mean, I think a kid could do this.
This is true, but what we don't provide that maybe you give some kids, they might, draw with crayons all over the wall, and you see how, they might, like, you give someone an inch and they take a mile. What you can do is really kind of lock people down into the system. So they're still working inside the theme here. You can limit what colors they can use. You can limit, what resources they have access to. You can limit their widgets. You can limit their layouts. So you can create something that is basically, for lack of a better term, marketer proof. So you know that always they're going to be using the specific design, look and feel of the website, working within patterns that have already been set up by your design team, and not causing anyone on the development or design side of your organization to pull out their hair, because the marketer is just working inside of these templates that they have access to, but these are still flexible enough to be totally sufficient for their needs, and you can take that really far. So that's our basic Drupal demo that we show most people. Typically at this point, what I like to do is open it up to questions. If people have questions about specific things that they'd like to see in Drupal. This demo is very robust. It's got a lot of different modules installed, so I can sort of on the fly answer a lot of questions and show a lot of cool features. But I'll leave it up to you guys to ask questions if you have any.
Great. If you would like to put any questions you might have about the demo you just saw, about using Drupal, about Brant, about me, about the framework, just type it into the chat box and we'll try to answer all of them. We actually have one question already, which is that website real? Does it exist?
So this website is a fictional website that we created as part of a demo. So what you can do, it's real in the sense that you can install it and you can put it somewhere, on your own local machine or on your own server somewhere. And to do that, all you have to do is go to this URL, so drupal.org/project/df. So it's the demo framework, and it is the default scenario that you get basically out of the box. You can also build your own scenarios for the demo framework. So if I just open this up, I'll show you. Here's what the project page looks like. So here it is on Drupal.org. Probably familiar with that logo already that we saw earlier. And this is actually for developers that want to download and install this website. This is what they need to do. But more importantly, because it's a framework for demos, they can install that website, but they could also, they could basically, if you're familiar with the idea of forking something, or, basically that's the idea of copying something and making changes to it, it's open source and you can do whatever you want with it. So if you'd like to make changes to it or use it for your own demo, that's really, what we encourage people to do.
So you talked a lot about roles and permissions. Mm-hmm. Can you show us how those are configured?
Sure, yeah. So what I'll do is I'll go ahead and switch over to this admin user. And you can see here I have some different demos available, and we were running the what we call the WEM demo, which is just web experiences. We also have one for commerce that we use and some media entertainment ones that we're working on. So, but basically the idea is building your own demos. So just explaining what this screen is. But to get back to your question, so as the admin you can see I have a lot of options here. And one of the most important ones is how we manage people on the site. So I can go ahead and open up the people section as the admin. And here's where we see the list of users on the site. So remember Erica and Paul and Emily. So we can see here are their different roles that they have that are assigned to them. So in the case of Erica, right, she was a curator on this site. So that means that she has access to specific things. And Paul is also a curator, but he's also a reviewer. And that's actually what gave him the publish permission. So in the case of Emily, you can see that she had one more. She had marketer. And that's what gave her access to those layout tools and to build landing pages herself. And so the way that gets managed is through the permissions page in Drupal. So I can open up the permissions page and we can see how this is, maybe a little bit daunting the first time you look at it, but let's just pare it down to a single role. So I'll click on the roles that are available on the site. You can see where I could actually add a new role. But in this case, what I want to do is go ahead and look at the curator role. So I can click Edit Permissions for that role. And then I see that here's all these different options in Drupal to set this up. So, for example, content, right? I'm going to filter this list by content, and I can see how I can, basically do that. Or actually, I'm sorry, I'm going to put node. So a little bit of a Drupalism here, and in Drupal, if you see the word node, that really just means content. It's another word for content that we use. A node is a piece of content. So when I look at the permissions that are set up for nodes, I can see that basically someone that's a curator can do some different things with this role, and there's different checkboxes. So we can see here's the different content types that are available. So there's ones for commerce and product reviews and contests. We can see which ones they can edit. We can see that they can't actually delete them. So I can't delete things as a curator. I can only create them and edit them, and so on and so forth. So something very powerful that you can do in Drupal, very granular system of actually setting up these different permissions. So we see there's permissions for all the different modules that are installed. So these are extensions, and we can see how someone that's a curator can administer collections. So that means that they can actually create collections, delete collections, useful for them. But things that they can't do maybe is like administer the blocks. So they can't actually go in and change the basic overall, say like the header of the site. Even the marketer couldn't do that. She had access to just the content area. So you can really sort of lock things down, and that's custom to what you want to do here. So that's roles and permissions.
You don't want your intern to mess up your website, you can
Precisely.
just set roles and permissions.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Here's another question. Can you tell us a little bit more about the demo framework and how we can use it?
Sure, yeah. So we talked about it a little bit, but I'd like to get into it a little bit more about the demo framework as far as something that you can really employ, especially if you're, if there's any other Drupal shops out there listening or people that are showing Drupal, looking for a good way to show Drupal. Just for example, so we looked at this website, you remember, Bike the USA, and we saw all that. So that was pretty cool. Some other people within our organization, may have, worked on another demo, and they built this commerce demo. So what I'm going to do real quick is just show you guys. So I have another install of the demo framework running this commerce demo, and you can see how this is a totally different scenario than the one that we saw for travel. So you can build out these custom demos with the demo framework and really decide which one you want to show to this potential client. So in the case of like, it's just loading up. In the case of, say, someone says they want to come to you for e-commerce, you could have an e-commerce demo ready to go. And so this is a totally different site than the first one that we saw, and we can see how it's one that we're working on figuring out a way to open source it and make it work for everybody in Drupal. So it has different content. It's a totally different site, which is very cool. But probably what's actually even more important is the fact that this is something that can be reset. So when I say that, like, right, how can I reset this? So think about like what we had here originally, right? When we were running through the demo, you could see how this gets kind of unclean at times. We're editing content, we're making changes, we're doing all these things, and now I've got to go in, like, we had things in collections, we had things published that shouldn't be published, all these things. So one thing I can do that's really cool that's built in the demo framework is actually just reset everything. So you see right here, for this specific scenario that we have enabled called WEM demo, which was the travel site, I can click reset, and what I'm going to do now is run this process using a module called migrate in Drupal. And what I'm doing is actually rolling back and I'm resetting all the content. So remember when we changed the title of Big Air and Big Sky? That's going to get reverted. When we changed the picture for the Munich content, that's going to get reverted. Everything is basically going to get wiped and reset so that if you need to provide this demo and then run through the script of it and then go back, an hour later and show someone all over again, all you have to do is reset and just let this run. So super powerful tools that we've built into this framework, and that's why it's a demo framework. We could have just, if you're familiar with distributions in Drupal, you might, I've seen other, sites, there's so great distributions like Commerce Kickstart. It's a full-on, e-commerce store. It's a T-shirt store, and it has that specific thing. But what's different about the demo framework is the fact that what you're actually doing is running scenarios on top of that. So installing Commerce Kickstart, all you get is the T-shirt store. But when you install the demo framework, you're actually installing a framework for demos.
Oh, here's my final question. Is the demo site Drupal 7 with backported features of Drupal 8 and contributed modules?
It is indeed that. So if you're familiar with some of the stuff that has been backported for Drupal 8, such as this nice nav bar and the responsive preview tool and some of those other things. So it is basically kind of a future-proof demo in many ways, because you can talk to people about how these are features that they can have in both Drupal 7 and in Drupal 8, and basically Drupal 7 much more mature on its in its development life cycle. We definitely have plans to port this all to Drupal 8 when ready, but as that's currently being worked on, we're still demoing with Drupal 7, and I think that we view it like people should, if you're building a production site and you need it launched tomorrow, you're still doing Drupal 7. So yeah, the answer is yes.
Well, thanks again, Brant. I'm going to just wrap things up, and I really just want to congratulate you on building a fantastic demo framework here, and I'm glad that we can all access it. If you are, if you want to show your boss, show your team how Drupal works, this is a great framework for doing so. We can also send you the recording to pass it along to your team. If you're looking to use the demo framework for yourself, go for it. You can contact Brant, who can probably give you a little more information on how to do that. And again, that was just an inspiring demonstration of Drupal and how powerful it is. It's great that Drupal gives a great solution to so many users, as we saw. And hopefully everyone has a good understanding of Drupal and Brant's Drupal framework. To learn more about PromoteSource, you can visit our website, which is promotesource.com. And of course, we will invite you to our next webinar, which is coming up in June. If you have any questions, again, reach out to Promote, reach out to Brant, and we will be happy to help you. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.